Hello my snacks, welcome back, my name is Jack. It's all a bunch of tales of interesting sibling behavior. Today, little sister calling me a parasitic leech. Well, enjoy the Amish lifestyle. I'm 28 years old and live in a town with an inflation crisis. I moved back in with my parents since we have a good relationship. I buy all the groceries and pay the electric bill. My sister, who's 16, however, was not happy. She was saying that I should be a man and move out again. A few weeks ago, she started continuously calling me a freeloader and a parasitic leech. Now, my parents are anti-tech. They are not part of a cult. They just avoid tech and prefer to live a simple life. The only modern tech they use is a laundry machine, a car, a flip phone, and a TV. Our parents don't, however, take away our gadgets if we paid for it ourselves. Now, when I turned 18 and looked for my first job, I had to handwrite a resume since I don't have a computer or a printer. It's hard to get a job while still in school because of the poor market in our town. Now, my little sister was lucky. I bought her a smartphone with a data plan since she was a young child. Yet, she was continuously calling me all these names. Eventually, my little sister's constant name-calling got on my nerves, and I came up with an idea. As the smartphone is under an active installment plan, I've simply repossessed the smartphone. Now she is having the same childhood I had. Oh, and she stopped with the name-calling. Enjoy the Amish lifestyle, little sis. So, at first, it seems pretty straightforward. Your older brother goes out of their way to free you from the clutches of boredom and having to, entertain yourself. So you can't be shocked when you bite the hand that feeds you and it stops feeding you that tech. Even other comments point out that it's rather ironic that she accuses you of being such a leech when she is literally also leeching off of you. That you're giving her a phone plan. But then that's the thing. If this phone was meant to be a gift, technically it should be hers regardless of if you're paying it off. I mean, that is the gift, was it not, that you were paying off a phone plan for her? By you admittedly just taking it away from her, it never really was a gift. It was more like leverage you had over her should she ever, cross your way. Not to imply it's that dramatic, but it kind of feels like that. It's kind of dishonest for you to imply you were giving someone this to someone and, ultimately just take it away from them whenever you got angry at them. What's your stance on that? Do you think it's fair that you can give someone something with invisible terms and conditions that they won't know if they've crossed or not until they already lose it? Well, it's a month later, in October at the time this new update was posted, that we find a bit more information of how things progress, and, they don't progress well. It had been a while since I took back my smartphone, which I had been lending to my little sister because she kept calling me a parasitic leech for having to move back home due to the rising cost of living. She has had no access to the internet since because our parents are pretty anti-tech and because she has no job. Now, I believe that consequences should be fair, impartial, and reasonable. Reasonable being the key word here. With that said, I decided to give back the smartphone to my little sister as she stopped with the constant name calling, was being a bit friendly, and because I felt bad for her as she was sleeping in bed all day from boredom. Life is very short and I don't want to hold grudges with anyone, especially my own sister. So I gently knocked on her door with the smartphone in hand. "Hi, little sister," I greeted her through the closed door.
What?
My sister yelled. I replied, "Well, I was going to give you back the smartphone, but it seems like you want to be left alone, so I'll leave you be. Enjoy the day, little sis." She then came out begging for the phone back. I told her that my friend really needed a smartphone, so I was thinking of giving it to him. She sighed and went back into her room. She's sleeping now. I think I'll let her buy her own phone this time. Hopefully she will mature in the coming years. She was a sweet child a couple of years ago, and I hope that she'll be a sweet person in a couple more. So at the time, once again, a lot of people in full support of OP's decision here. Reality is, she doesn't deserve one until she can provide it herself. You've tried, you saw some change in her, but as you found out, it wasn't a permanent change. Well, she hasn't learned her actions have consequences, and you should let your friend take over the phone. Sis can start looking for a job instead of leeching off of you. Ahaha, how the tables have done the turny-whirny, spinny-roundy thingy. It seems fair to make the sister have to face the mirror. If she wants a phone, yeah, she can just get a job. In this town that OP has clarified is actually almost impossible at her age and a nightmare to try and do without technology at all. Yeah, totally fine for her. because as we all know, the best way to get someone up on their feet is to deck them in the shins. Look, I know it sounds like I'm defending her a bit too much, but there is a reason for this. I'm not just being a devil's advocate. For you see, as we come to the final update that's allegedly the conclusion to this all, well, as you read the comments after this story, you'll possibly maybe be on their side when they feel that this is becoming far less like successful petty revenge and far more just petty bullying. After my last standoff with my little sister, where a smartphone had become a pawn in our game of household politics, I noticed her demeanor had shifted. She was less combative, perhaps a sign of an epiphany. However, I couldn't resist one final move. Now, for Christmas, I bought my sister a new woolen beanie. But I also dug up another old smartphone from my drawer, a phone with a shattered screen and a very poor battery life. I wrapped them up in a parcel and left it underneath the Christmas tree. Her initial excitement quickly fizzled as she had seen the phone's condition. Now, later that afternoon, she confronted me, but not with anger, but with a calm respect. She said that she was grateful for the smartphone despite its flaws, and that she loved the beanie. Now, in light of all of this, I ordered her a new battery for the smartphone. Old smartphones with replaceable batteries for the win. Now, unfortunately for her though, she will have to deal with the crackled screen until she saves up enough money for a new one. But luckily, she's got a job at her friend's pizza joint and can save up for it. This is r/petty revenge after all. So yes, there were a few in the comments believing that OP's actions made the little sister a better person. So eventually this all gets compiled into the best of Redditor updates, and many people here, seeing the entire story straight up on one page, well, it makes them feel that he rubs them the wrong way, feeling like this entire experience has gone from petty revenge and reprimanding to, as I said before, more so bullying and just nasty behavior like a power trip, wrapping the broken phone as a gift to get her hopes up, then gloating over her broken spirit was just sad. And this is where I think we have that separation in age and generation of understanding things, like the importance of technology, especially in, what is that, Gen Z, Gen Alpha? Either way, so Opie was under no obligation to continue paying for his sister's phone when she was going out of her way to be unkind to him, but it needed to be a one and done thing. He's being Lucy with the football, whatever that reference is, and giving that smartphone represents a 16-year-old's access to social life, and that's just cruel, which makes others begin to theorize that because of OP's reduction in life quality, having to go back to the parents' house to survive a big move, etc., he doesn't have much else going on in his own life, and it makes them feel good that they get to have this sort of a power play. You know, kind of like bullying. Your life sucks, so let's make others' lives suck. Others even wondering there is no way that a 16-year-old would go to this degree about being rude if there wasn't some reason for it. Sure, some 16-year-olds are snarky and can be a bit of a dech themselves at times, but to be so consistent, I mean, maybe she herself was being the bully in the first place, where her life was really sucking, she was really depressed and sad, so she was projecting it out onto him as well. But then, okay, what do you think then? Is it pathetic on his end to be posting in petty revenge as an adult towards a 16-year-old who is just really frustrated and upset that they're in a lifestyle that completely alienates them from their own friends and social groups? Or do you think that this is just a classic example of an adult dunking on a bratty child who needs to learn to be mature and respectful to those you live with? Checking out some more bad practices between siblings where apparently photos are more important than people. Am I the a-hole for making my brother cover up his scars for my wedding? I'm 24 female, and I'm getting married to my fiancé, 31 male, in this March. We've been actively planning this wedding for months now, and I've asked my brother, 22 male, to be my man of honor, since we are very close. We went suit shopping today, and as my brother was trying on different button-ups, short sleeve, because it's going to be a warm destination wedding, I noticed his self-inflicted scars. Some looked relatively new, but they were mostly healed. I've known it to be a habit of his, but he'd been wearing sweaters all winter, so I kind of forgot them. I immediately told him that the short sleeves weren't going to work, but that we could find him an airy long-sleeve shirt instead. He got upset, saying that he would be the only one wearing long sleeves, and asked if everyone could wear long sleeves instead. I told him that I'm not going to force everyone to wear a long sleeve button-up in 90-degree weather. but no, it's fine. You're gonna do that to the brother, I guess. Brother, you don't understand. You looking like an exhausted, sweaty, sweltering mess will be far more aesthetic than you simply folding your arms or having them behind your back. Come on! He got angry and didn't understand why I would make him wear one in 90 degrees, but he is used to wearing long sleeves in the heat, and my fiance's 5-year-old daughter is going to be present. He doesn't want her subjected to stuff like that. It would also ruin the wedding photos. We ended up really arguing about it, and I told him it's not up for discussion. Either he wears the long sleeves or he isn't welcome. He thinks I'm an a-hole now for choosing my new family over him. I just don't want to worry about this on my big day. Now, some additional info. There's no telling that he's going to quit damaging his arms for everything to heal by the time the wedding rolls around. They might just be fresh cuts. So, you as the sibling see that your brother is performing grievous bodily harm onto themselves, and your reaction is, "Oh no, the photos!" Okay, now you'd think everyone is yata on this, right? And not the a-hole. This isn't the time or place for his issues to be revealed or discussed. I have a large scar from childhood, so I know there's sensitivity there, but his scars represent something that will cause needless chatter. Now, outside the wedding, during the weekend, he should wear what he wants. I mean, last I checked, you don't exist in the world of Bridgerton, and this is 2024, where people aren't just going to be spending a whole wedding talking about some, scratch on someone's leg. Oh, but could you imagine that? People talking about something at a wedding. Ugh. This comment has a nice take on it all. I feel like in the future you would look at pictures and wish you had accepted your brother. Photos are about capturing the moment, not about aesthetic. You love your brother, bring him in and accept all of him. That is a beautiful point of view. I feel like a lot of us who are constantly insecure about how we look in photos, it would do a lot of us some good to perceive photos like that and less, all about the Instagram aesthetic and whether or not it's good to post on social media. Now, this comment's interesting. Apparently, some people accuse this person of bragging by showing their scars, or that they were trying to make some sort of statement. Like, no, I'm just wearing a t-shirt on a hot summer day like everyone else. During the winter months, no one sees their scars because they wear heavy sweaters all the time. Like, it's not a freaking statement. They're just living their life. Which is why I can't even make a proper counter-argument against this for the OP side of things. Like, okay, people are going to talk. Let them. They're the ones who are being the problem there, not your brother for just existing. Okay, well, there is one idea I can think of, and this honestly isn't even for the OP though, it's more for the brother anyway. But I think there are times in my own life too, personally, where I've looked back on, reflected on, and I was, at the time making a statement, or I was going through a phase and a style I was doing and such. Nothing as, I guess, dangerous to my health as what the brother is doing here, but either way, I still feel a lot of cringe and embarrassment looking at those sort of memories, those photos, and I wished now, at the time, that someone, encouraged me to display a certain decorum that I could now look back at and be like, you know what, I'm glad someone told me otherwise. But, I think that's also still a very light, defense for the OP, and I don't really know if that really holds any weight. So let me know your thoughts on that if you think I am just talking out of my butthole just because I haven't stopped the record right now. Meanwhile, let's move over to a woman whose brother is a misogynist because he's daring to be attracted to his wife. Am I the a-hole for asking my brother to stop objectifying his wife on their wedding? Note, in my family's culture and background, weddings are usually very glamorous. This doesn't mean big and expensive. Families are very close-knit too. Now, I'm a 32 female, my younger brother Evan is 25 male, and he got married on Sunday. On the day, the bride Leela, 25 female, sat at our family's table for a little while to eat. Now, it was a circular table with my sisters, brother, parents, Leela, and Evan. I was sitting on one side of them, my mom was on the other. But she was hearing problems, so she didn't notice this situation. Now, Leela was extremely quiet, so me and my sisters were making conversation with her, complimenting her dress and veil. Evan added on to that by saying she looked lovely, but then he whispered in her ear, "You know what I meant to say, sexy." Now, after that, whenever someone at the table said something, he'd whisper things. At one point, he whispered that she looked like a dolly. Now, I thought that was disgusting, and it's objectifying to call your wife a literal doll. I decided to call Evan out and say I found his little comments gross and to get his act together, because no woman wants to stay with a man who objectifies her. Edit. Now, I was shocked that he could objectify her while she was dressed modestly, too. Never underestimate a man's ability to lower his standards of beauty to find even the sight of an ankle heavily attractive. Now, Evan accused me of being sneaky and eavesdropping their private conversations, that I embarrassed him, but they were literally sitting right next to me, so I was bound to hear. They left to sit with Leela's family instead, and Evan has been absolutely infuriated with me. He said, I told you not to cause drama, and hasn't spoken to me since. Oh yeah, whispering to your wife how attractive she looks? How scandalous. She should leave him. God, I hate it when my boyfriend tells me he's attracted to me. Ugh, what an ick. So yeah, as other comments point out, the fact the last thing he says to her is, I told you so, to not cause drama, really highlights that she clearly is someone who does this often, putting their nose where it doesn't belong. Look, I don't want to be that person that these people are being right now, pointing out her age being 32, clearly way older than the bride and groom, but I wouldn't be surprised if she's projecting about her own frustrating, dry love life. But here's the thing. She's probably happy with that, and that's totally fine. If you prefer to never be with someone or ever date around, that's cool. Just don't assume that every other person is into that sort of thing too. Some people like to limit their intimacy to just holding hands. Some people enjoy pencils being shoved up their bum, okay? Look, no judgment. Am I the a-hole for kicking my sister out of her own birthday party? Here we meet a 15-year-old boy exploring his edgy phase. I'm 15 male and I have a sister, 18 female, who just turned 18 a few days ago. She wanted to have her birthday party at a stable with a party that you would throw for an 8-year-old because she's very immature. She has some kind of disability. I'm pretty sure it's some variation of mental retardation, but my parents won't clarify to me. This is important. Oh boy, little boy. I wonder if the reason your parents won't clarify to you what your daughter has is because they clearly see that you lack the emotional maturity to fathom such things. Hilariously ironic, considering you accuse your sister of being just that. But don't worry, folks, this next part explains where this tantrum of his is coming from. So while we were at the party, I was trying to enjoy myself with all these childish activities, but it was boring. My parents favor her a ton and will treat her like a precious baby. She is the golden child. Like, we invited a bunch of kids from the neighborhood that she hangs out with because none of her friends who are her age wanted to go to a kid's party. Anyways, we were on a bouncy castle because she dragged me there, and she ended up peeing herself. It was really gross. I yelled at her to get the frick out of the bouncy castle and dragged her over to our car and made her sit there for an hour because I couldn't stand the pee smell. It was embarrassing as hell to be around. Well, my parents realized when it was time to cut the cake and sing happy birthday that she was in their car. Because of her disability, she didn't know how to get out and was crying. My parents were furious with me for some reason, even though I was giving my sister a proper consequence for peeing herself. They are selling my PC and getting in the way of me being able to do well at school. Like, am I the a-hole? So yeah, a lot to unpack here. It seems our young fella here is exploring the part of your life where you project all blame onto everyone else but yourself for your own shortcomings. I mean, struggling in school, likely in social groups as well because of your sister, feeling second place to her all the time in family. It's like all the boxes ticked to be feeling estranged from any sort of relationship regarding family in general. But he's getting no pity in the comments, people saying things like, your actions were selfish and possibly an indicator that you have a mental condition that you should be in therapy for. God damn. I don't even think that's an insult. I think that's just a genuine concern for you. But is it fair to make these sweeping judgments about someone who, throughout their entire childhood, the consideration and care they thought they would get or deserve has been slowly just taken away from them, bit by bit, to prioritize whatever care and consideration the sister has wanted or needed? I mean, how can you expect him to have much empathy towards his sister when it likely is possible that his parents never really taught him how to do so? There's a part of me that honestly doesn't blame him for acting like this. Not that I think it's fine, I'm just not too surprised. Though making a defense for him doesn't help when, upon finding out some other post he made, now his account's been deleted, so I sadly couldn't find it myself, but some others read it before it was deleted, implying that he is the a-hole. Your previous post makes me think you were waiting for an opportunity like this, which is why you didn't tell your parents, because you knew they'd show her basic human decency and clean her up and help her get back to having fun, not punish her for something that's not her fault. So look, it doesn't seem like we're getting the full picture, but based on all this, and based on what I think too, where do you stand about this? Consider him scum, or consider him just equally a victim? Am I the a-hole because I said my younger brother is being too hard on our brothers, Harry and Danny, after Danny lied about having cancer and indirectly destroyed Harry's relationship? Yeah, that's a big title. I, 26 male, have 3 brothers. Harry, 29 male, Danny, 28, and Steve, 22. In 2019, my brother Danny gave us the news that he had been diagnosed with cancer. He said his prognosis was good and there were lots of different treatment options, but we were still scared for him. At the time, my brother Harry had a long-term girlfriend. At the end of 2019, she was finishing her second last semester of med school, and in the spring, she would graduate. Now, Harry says he wanted to marry her and was saving for a ring. His girlfriend told him a few times how the things Danny said about his cancer and treatment didn't make sense. At first, she thought Danny was just mixing up things because he doesn't have a medical background. But she started getting suspicious the more time went on. Harry kept telling her the same thing she originally thought. Danny was just mixing things up because he isn't a doctor and all this cancer stuff was new to him. But it got to the point where Harry and her were always arguing about it. And it came to a head one time because she told him she thought Danny was lying. Harry defended Danny and broke up with her when she didn't take back what she said, like Harry told her to. He was so angry with what she said about Danny. We were all sad about the breakup because we liked her and thought her and Harry were going to get married. Well, she was right. Danny lied and he never had cancer or anything wrong with him. The pandemic happening actually helped Danny because when he said he had to start chemo and no one would come with him because of the virus, everyone believed him. He never had any chemo. He didn't have the other treatments he said he had after he first got diagnosed. It was all a lie Danny made up to get attention and devotion. In 2021, everything came out and Danny admitted to everyone he never had cancer. So things have been rough. Danny is in therapy. We have gone to family therapy with him one time, except for my brother Steve. Lots of people are angry at Danny and it has ruined a lot of relationships. Me and the rest of the family are angry at Danny for putting us through this, but we recognize he has a problem if he is so willing to lie to us. Now, Steve, on the other hand, completely cut Danny off and says Danny is dead to him. He refuses to be in the same room as Danny as well. This has hit Harry hard because he defended Danny when his ex-girlfriend said he was lying and broke up with her over it. Even though he broke up with her 4 years ago, he still has feelings for her. She didn't want anything to do with him after the breakup, even after finding out that she was right about Danny. Harry found out that she is engaged. Her fiancé is also a doctor. Harry found out after he ran into someone who was friends with both him and his ex-girlfriend, and ever since he found out about the engagement, he's been a mess. He blames Danny for ruining his life and says if it wasn't for Danny, he would be married to her now. Me and other people did try to get Harry back out there, but he wasn't over her yet, and he still isn't, even after 4 years. But Steve told Harry it's his own fault, and even though Steve hates Danny, he, Steve, says Harry has no one to blame but himself. When I found out what Steve said, I told him he is being too hard on Harry and Danny too, but especially on Harry, who is a mess since he found out about his ex-girlfriend's engagement. Steve thinks I'm wrong though, and it's none of my business, because he tells Harry. But my question is, am I the a-hole for telling Steve he's being too hard on Harry, and should he back off and try to be supportive because Harry is a mess? Or is Steve in the right here? So, a bit of a confusing question to ask, because we're kind of being asked if Steve is right, but also wrong, but right? Like, yes, Danny did ruin Harry's life. Steve is correct about that. But is he correct that Harry also ruined his own life by just believing Danny? I mean, I feel it's kind of hypocritical because, Steve, did you not also believe Danny's cancer? Was it also then not your responsibility to call it out just as Harry's ex-girlfriend did? I mean, others think merely giving Danny that second chance and pretty much makes him the a-hole themselves, the OP. I mean, Harry broke up with his girlfriend because of Danny's lies, but the fault is on Harry's for not believing his girlfriend, who was getting a medical degree. Clearly, his ex deserves someone who appreciates her and her knowledge. Harry screwed up. You need to stay out of it and learn that Danny is a villain and Harry is a fool. And, you know what? I can see that side of it. Like, it's one thing to believe, your family member does actually have cancer despite how they've been going through things, but it's another to just completely dismiss your educated and intellectually superior partner who would actually know all the ins and outs of this sort of thing. Like, as uncomfortable as it could be to confront your family member who is, possibly lying about these things, I think you'd still have to consider the legitimate understanding your smarter partner would have on this situation. What's also interesting, though, is just how many people are coming out of the woodwork to share their own personal experiences of people doing this. Like, wow, I didn't realize how common this is. The lengths some people go to make money without having to actually work for it, Though some of these have nicer endings than others. My mother did this. I was distancing myself after realizing how toxic she was and that she would never change. She tried to rope me in by saying she had cancer. She must have jinxed herself because she was diagnosed about a year later and died. So with that wholesome ending, we'll end things there. Don't you love happy endings? Anyway, thank you as always for watching. I've had to redub this entire video because I was recording it through the wrong outlet this entire time. So that's fun. This has literally been like an entire hour of my day wasted. Anyway, love your face. See you next time. Bye-bye.